all the places I've ever been introduced to a stage, I've never had that one before. So thank you. That put me at ease. I appreciate it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for having me here, especially on such a miserable day. Everyone's made it out, which is nice. This is my third university talk now, and I preface them all by saying that this will not be some hardline business jargon, profit, revenue, income, margins. I'm not a business expert by my own admission. I am very much learning on the job as I go. But hopefully what I can offer you today is a little bit of insight into my story, a little bit of reassurance for yours, and maybe some tips and something to extract a bit of inspiration from. This is actually coming at a great time because on the 23rd of February, we are due to celebrate our 3rd year anniversary of business, which usually the death hits around the 12-month or 2-year mark. That's a common known thing. So we survived it. What it has done, it has made me heavily reflect on what I've done right, what I've done wrong, and what I've done very wrong. So I'm going to share all of that with you today. But before I do, I need to share with you a little bit of who I am and how I got here. So my name is Marnie Swindells, if the picture isn't loud enough and obvious enough. I own a boxing gym called BRONX in Camberwell in southeast London. It's split over 2 floors. We've got a sauna, weights gym, studio, cafe, the whole thing. If you want to come and visit, you can come. It's £15, ever the businesswoman. You can come and have a look. And we're based in Camberwell. What you may know me better for is being on the 2023 series of The Apprentice. I won the series, which now makes me Lord Sugar's business partner. And I could do a whole speech on that, but we'll save that one for another day. The journey of being in business with Lord Sugar in my first business and doing it publicly has been very tumultuous. There has been highs, lows, and every emotion in between. It has been a lot, so I'll unpack that with you. I am originally not from London. If you can tell from my accent, I'm from the north. I'm from Manchester. Anyone else? Any more Manx in here? No? Not one? Guys, leaving me hanging. My mum's in here. She's the other northerner, so I'm not alone. So I came to London when I was 18. I came for university. I came to study history and politics, which I hated. I despised it. I studied at Goldsmiths. Probably if I was at Greenwich, maybe I would have liked it better. But no, I studied history and politics, hated it. But whilst I was there, I spent a lot of my free time and my lecture time in the local boxing club, where I found what I was truly passionate about. Absolutely loved it. Began competing, but this was at a time, this was 2012, so this was at a time when women's boxing was still a circus act. It was unheard of. It was 2012, so it was just the time when women's boxing had been allowed into the Olympics. So the climate for wanting to be a female boxer was dry. There was no hope. I grew impatient and I moved into coaching. I dabbled in promoting. And so I looked at boxing through some different lenses and tried my hand in some different capacities. And it was during that time, there was one night in the boxing club when I was there, I was coaching a session, and one woman in the session, her name was Sarah, unbeknownst to her, I was about to dump my life on her. And I said to her, you know, I've just graduated, I don't know what to do with my life, I feel really lost, I don't know what's next for me. And she said, I am a criminal barrister. If you'd like to come and shadow me, you can come, try, see if that's something you might like. So I did. I took her up on that opportunity. I followed her for a 7-day GBH trial, and I fell in love with it. So forget history and politics, forget boxing. I wanted to be in suits. Like, that was the vibe. And the way she just carried herself and her presence, and it actually has a lot of crossover with business, being able to articulate yourself and the advocacy element. So I fell in love with it and decided that was going to be my new trajectory. So I went back to law school. I was called to the bar in 2018, and I spent the next 2 years of my life in courtrooms. It was a very weird 2 years of my life because by day, I'd be making very formal submissions to a judge and talking to counsel, and it was all very like stiff upper lip. And then by evening, I would be in the local boxing gym, spitting sawdust with the guys, sparring, fighting, and all of that rough, tough stuff that you love about boxing. So my life had this very weird duality to it. But what that did give me is a very all-encompassing overview and oversight of these two different worlds. And being very observant at that time, I noticed what was happening within the boxing gym. And we was getting a lot of people from that corporate world coming to the gym, and they loved the integrity and the soul of these local boxing gyms, these grassroots sports clubs. But they wanted to have a shower afterwards, or they wanted to be able to book, or they wanted to be able to pay by card. And boxing, as an industry, really didn't have that commercial element to it. So they would leave us, and then they'd go to the higher-end fancy gyms, and there'd be no sense of any soul. People wouldn't know their name. There was no authenticity to it, so they'd venture back. And that presented an opportunity to me and a problem, if you will. And a lot of businesses start out with noticing a problem. And I thought, if you could just marry these two worlds, if you could bring together that real magical feeling that the reason why people watch Rocky movies, that feeling of that grit, and you could bring together that commercial element, the aesthetics, the style, and you could bring these together and have the perfect blend, then that would be something that hasn't been done before. That would be a USP that nobody else owns. So I would sit in between hearings and I'd start thinking, the seed was starting to plant, and I'd start looking up on Rightmove commercial properties in London, all completely out of the non-existent budget I had anyway. But it started sitting in my mind more and more. And then, one faithful day, I was chatting to my neighbour. He knew I was involved in boxing, but he didn't know that I was on the hunt for premises. And we were talking, and he was a builder, and he said, I'm working on a project in Southwark at the minute. And I tell you what, it would make a great boxing club. I said, take me to it. Take me to it. So we went. It was a fly-by-night visit. We went in there after hours, and you could hardly see a thing. The whole floor, the basement floor, was covered in sewage to about knee height. There was asbestos in the walls. The whole place was falling apart. You name it, it had it. A rat infestation, mold, everything you wouldn't want in a project, it had it. And I looked at it, and it's the double-height ceilings, these concrete walls, bricks, and I just fell in love. I thought, I have to have this building. Again, putting this into context, I was 24, no business acumen, no business background, no qualifications, but I saw it and I wanted it and I had to have it. So in my delusion, I approached the council and I said, what would it take for me to get this built? I don't know how I had the audacity, because looking back now, if someone came to me with no budget and said, what do? I think they were crazy. But I went to him and I said, what would it take for me to have this building? And he said, I think he was palming me off, he said, if you can raise the funds to do it up, it's your problem. I'll give you a 20-year lease. Kind of palm me off. So that's exactly what I did. I went away, I wrote the business plan of all business plans, the monster document. It was about 70 pages long, and it took me about 6 to 8 months, I would say, to get this document to a place I was confident in. And I set about going to funders, reaching out to them. And after a lot, and this is where that sort of barrister background came in, and I suppose that fighter boxing background, is it made me so confident, so fearless to put my idea forward. So all these skills were finally coming to fruition and coming into play. And I went to these funders, and I managed to secure a £250,000 grant from Sport England. We were the first limited company that they invested in. They pushed for me to become a charity or a KIC, a community interest company, and I stood firm and said, no, I'm going to remain a limited company. I want to make a profit. I want to do good things, but I want to make a profit and be self-sustaining. So they gave me the 250K. Once they were in, it made life a lot easier. I went to other companies, other organizations, and said, listen, they want in, you should get in. And they did. So then they match funded. So £250,000 grant, got added another 100,000, from there another 100,000, and from there another 50,000. So in total, I ended up, my whole funding round was just short of 400K. That money I then spent on renovating this building. And until, if you ever go there and you see it, and I'm there, I'll show you pictures of what it was before, and you'll understand how all of that money was swamped into this building. It was expensive, it cost a lot. And it was a very, very challenging, difficult time. But if that wasn't enough of a challenge, I was sat there one night on my sofa amidst sorting out this gym and setting it up. Sat on the sofa, watching The Apprentice. I know this is the bit that you're all actually interested in. Sat there watching The Apprentice, and at the end of every episode, Lord Sugar goes, if you think you've got what it takes to be my business partner, apply now. I thought, you know what? I do think I've got what it takes. I'm going to apply. So I applied, and I wouldn't say it was on a whim. It was intentional. I wanted to get that investment, but I could never have comprehended it would have become what it did, and I would have gone on to win the show. I go there to the auditions, and I get the call to arrive at a certain time, and I'm thinking it would be maybe a group this size. It was hordes and hordes of people outside of a building in central London, and they were doing that every hour, different slots, every hour, across 3 days, across the UK. There's hundreds and thousands of applicants, and I'm thinking, there is no way this is happening. But each time, just keep putting my best foot forward, be confident in the idea, keep pushing it. You've done your research, you know what you're doing, speak up, speak firm. So I did that and got through one round, got through the next round, got through the next round. Has anyone ever thought about applying to The Apprentice? Anyone ever done it? Yeah? Guys, do it with caution because, listen, I'll tell you now, I'm a much nicer person in real life than the show would have you believe. It's a very, very difficult one. But go to the auditions, and as we go through each round, it's like a metaphor because if you get through, they'll take you in a lift and they take you up a floor. And if you get through that round, they take you up another floor. So if you get to the top floor, you know you're in a good place. So I got to the top floor. Little did I know, there was more floors to get to. So a few weeks later, another callback. Before I know it, I'm on the show. I'm knee-deep in water in Antigua, trying to sell a ticket to some random person, falling out with everybody. It's a hot mess. But again, round by round, I get there, week by week, keep fighting my way through and get to the final. So now I have Lord Sugar as a 50% shareholder in the business. He owns half of it, and he never lets me forget it. And we have been running, as I said, BRONX for 3 years in Camberwell, and it has been phenomenal. It has been life-changing. It has opened so many doors. It's been heartbreaking as well. It's been really, really, really difficult. I can't emphasize that enough, but wouldn't change it for the world. So I'm going to share with you some of the things that have come from that, some of the highlights that I think would be most beneficial to pass on. And as I said, this is not going to be the hardline stuff about profits and look for this and look for this, because I think that gets said enough a lot. But some of the things that don't get said enough is the softer side of business. And for me in particular, as I said, not coming from a business background, it was all about learning these skills in a very organic, natural way. So the first thing that I would want to pass on to you guys is the importance of trusting your gut instinct. And again, that's not an objective, tangible thing. It's a feeling. But in an industry which there is no textbook to running a good business, she says as she's talking to a group of business students, but there is no rule, there's no right or wrong. There is sometimes a moment where you have to really look inwards and think, what feels right? And that became super clear to me one board meeting with Lord Sugar when I was having some difficulties with one of my staff members who just wasn't really performing, wasn't really showing up, but I really liked her and I didn't want it to be the end, but I need the business to work. And I said to him, Lord Sugar, I know you're an expert in firing people, so talk to me about when it's right to know when to let someone go. And his response immediately was to trust your nose. He said, what does your gut say? What feels right? And I've kind of used that as a measuring stick for a lot of decisions that I don't have an objective answer to, that there isn't a numerical conclusion to. It just is a case of feeling what is right. That would be my main takeaway. The second would be go before you're ready. How many people in here have started their business or launched or are early days or, yeah? I would hope it'd be more hands than that, guys, because truthfully, you'll never be ready. And the fact that you're taking time out of your day to even be here tells me that you guys are taking it seriously, you want it. But for a lot of people, there's always this resistance moment of like, I really want it, I want to do it, I've got an idea, but maybe I should get that done first, or maybe I need to be more qualified, or I haven't built my social media up big enough to take that next step. Guys, jump and see how far you fly, because the worst that can happen, the absolute worst that can happen is you have to start again. And even then, you'll be starting again with so much knowledge that you've learned from a mistake. For me, business has been, as I said, I'm on the ground running and figuring it out as I go and adapting. And business is such a transient thing that there won't be a moment in your life, a business plan moment where you go, yeah, I've got it, that's it, it's perfect, it's ready. So take the risk, step your foot out and just get it going, get it moving. You can ask me a few more questions about that when we get to the question bit, but I know that that's the biggest stumbling block. I hear people even when I've done these talks before, people have such incredible ideas, but just a little lack of confidence to push it over the edge and put it into the atmosphere. And the third one that I would say is to be super intentional about what you're trying to achieve. It's another thing I hear a lot of, again, people having great ideas, but not having a sense of direction or a plan. Going back to that business plan that I wrote, I credit that to being one of the reasons that I won the show, because it had an answer to every question that would ever come up. I'd be walking the dog, I'd be writing, and then I'd walk the dog and I'd think, well, what would I do if that did happen? Then I'd go back to the business plan and do a whole paragraph of, if this happened, I would do this. So just really being mindful and giving yourself, first and foremost, clarity about what you want. Listen, I get it because I'm guilty of it too, but life can be full of distractions. You can think, yeah, you know what? I'm opening this boxing gym, but I'm just going to go on holiday first, and then I just want to build up my following, and slowly that vision that you have so clearly there starts seeping away. Being intentional, writing it down on paper, making it tangible, holding yourself to something accountable is a really powerful tool that you can use. Coming to the end of my presentation, guys. As I said, I didn't want this to be a long, drawn-out, hit you with loads of facts and figures. But there is something to be said about doing business in the ground-up way. You learn a lot. And like I said, this whole journey, this last 3 years, 3 years before this, I didn't even have the premise of a gym. Now I have a whole gym with a billionaire, and my life has changed dramatically. And it was all owing to that 24-year-old girl's delusion that something might happen if she takes that risk and is brave enough to put it out there in the world and say it out loud. So I really, really hope wherever you guys are at in your journey that you could take at least a little bit of something from some of the stuff that was just said there. I'm going to open the floor up to questions. Do you guys have anything? In fact, I think you want to ask me questions first, right? Yeah.
Is Lord Sugar as scary in real life as he is on TV?
He is exactly what you see on TV. He's very, very to the point, very direct, very stern, very straight. He's a man who knows what he wants. And again, going back to what I was saying, he has clarity. He has clarity over who he is and how he approaches business. Doesn't mince his words. And I love it. I know exactly where I stand with him. There's no fluff. There's no... He gets stuff done. But equally, he expects you to get stuff done. He's a man of high expectations. For a man this big, his expectations are this big.
I had a whole list of questions, but actually you've answered so many in your chat, so I think we might just open it up and see what the students want to say. Bilal was first over there. So
I'm an open book. Ask away.
Okay. So do you still work with Tim and Karen by any chance?
I don't have any contact with Tim or Karen anymore, but I do have ongoing contact with Lord Sugar. We actually had a board meeting last week. We've had a few board meetings where it's online, in person, and he'll be on his yacht, and I'll just see the waves in the background, and I think, I'm on the wrong end of this bargain. I've got the wrong 50% here.
I'd love it if you did.
But no, not Tim and Karen, but still very close to Lord Sugar and his team, and they've been amazing.
anybody else? At the back of the deck?
You said you started your business with little information. I
That's always the case, and you can't wait for one more. You have to act yesterday. It has to happen, because time will pass you by, and our life on this earth is limited. Not to get too philosophical, but it truly is. You've got to get it going. You've got to get it cracking, and I guarantee it's going to take longer than you think too. So if you start now, you'll probably be where you'd hope to be in a year's time. Nothing happens quick. But to answer your question, I somewhat reverse engineered the idea of starting a business in that I saw something, I wanted it, and honestly, guys, I couldn't let go of it. I used to go to bed at night and just picture this gym and this space and what it could be. And once that vision was in there so concretely, I couldn't let it go. It had to happen. So then it was a case of going to the drawing board and thinking, how do I fix this problem? How do I figure out how to get funds? How do I show enough credibility to the council to give me a 20-year lease? I had no savings to invest in it. I was 24, I had nothing. But it's about how, again, goes back to clarity. How clear you are of your idea is how clear an investor is going to be of you. So if you want a business, but you don't know what it is, I would say it's not the right time. When you figure out what it is that you're passionate about, that keeps you up at night, this burning thing that you know you can fix, and you believe in it wholeheartedly against all logic, that's your cue to start putting pen to paper and go, okay, how am I gonna make this happen? I think if you go into it with the idea of wanting a business, it's probably the wrong way around. So wait until you find something that keeps you up at night and then figure out all the problems around it. My mum always says, where there's a will, there's a way, right? So once you've got what you want, you'll find a way. Yeah, of course.
Were you always confident in just in general? And for those who aren't really confident in expressing their ideas and sometimes lose that, what would you suggest?
You know what? I want to give you a really honest answer in that, because although I can stand up here and present very confidently, and I could get into the ring and have a fight confidently and go into court confidently, I have plenty of insecurities and doubts. But you cannot afford to let them show, because if you don't believe in what you're saying and you're putting out into the world, you can never expect an investor to. So even there, as I'm sat opposite Lord Sugar in The Apprentice, my hands are shaking, my voice is breaking, and I can feel it, and he's asking me questions that I don't have the answers to. I don't. But what I can offer him is belief in who I am and character. And I can say to him, listen, I don't have all the answers yet, I'm going to be honest, but I can give you where I'm at now. And that was enough. That was enough for him. So you don't have to be this elite premium version of yourself that has everything figured out. You don't. You just have to walk through every situation with honesty and with confidence in at least what you're trying to achieve. But there's no... A lot of confidence is facade. People are, internally they have their doubts, and that's okay. That's okay. In fact, it makes it an honest reflection of what business is. It's a scary thing. It's a risk-taking thing. Yeah. I was thinking then for a second, comparing it to boxing. My partner, he's a boxer, and it's the same thing, I suppose, in the ring. You go into it. You have to be confident, but that doesn't mean you don't have your own doubts internally about the outcome. So you got it.
Got another question there.
When you mentioned I'm not Apprentice fan, so I can see that you're a fighter and you never quit, kept going. So even you have it's very important to have a niche. You have a sort of niche, and if you work with different companies and they for them 20 grand, it's a piece of cake. So you know where to what kind of doors you should knock at to get to the sponsorship. And congratulations, and we keep going, and even so with Lord Sugar it's not easy to
Thank you.
you have the best boss.
Yeah. He's a great mentor. And I think that kind of relates to your question at the back that I didn't fully answer in terms of how to know which doors to knock on in terms of sponsorship. And the idea of wanting to start out but not having the answers of where to get funding, all of that. Again, trial and error. Be intentional about who you're trying to approach. So if you do want funding, find a list. Find funders that match with you. If you take that approach of throwing enough at it and something will stick, it's the wrong approach. You're going to waste their time, waste your time. Find funders, knock on doors where you can offer them something they're looking for, where you can offer value. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, like during the whole process of Apprentice, what was your most lowest point and what you do to overcome it?
In The Apprentice,
Yeah, it's not only at in the whole business when you are starting off. No.
that's a very good question. There's many low points. There's many wonderful, wonderful things about owning your own business. The freedom, the creativity, the license to make your life whatever you want it to be, but it does not come easy. It's littered with self-doubt about whether you're making the right decisions. As I said, there's no textbook. If I was a doctor and I needed to diagnose someone, I'd go, it'd be very clear, this means this. With business, it's not that. Sometimes, I have problems now in the business, and I can't pinpoint what the problem is. So I spend a lot of time kind of just digging, trying to understand it better, and sometimes there's nothing at the bottom of the pit, and I'm still left as confused as I was before. It's not easy. You have to be really resilient. You have to be adaptable. Some of the lowest points in my business, I will say, The Apprentice, I didn't think I had any really low points when I was on the show because I was truly so focused on being there and the opportunity. I didn't have time to feel sorry for myself. It was 3 a.m. wake up, midnight, bedtime, the next day, same thing, go, go, go. And it was like a workhorse. We had no phones. We had no connection to the internet. We didn't even have clocks around the house we stayed at. So you were fully immersed in the process. I didn't have time to be sad. But coming out of it, running my own business, I would say the biggest struggle I have is the feeling of, as I said, self-doubt and feeling alone. Feeling like, even though I have Blood Sugar as a business partner, I'm very much responsible for making things happen on the ground. Especially if you're coming from it without the business background or having another business partner here, it can be very isolating. The heavy is the head that wears the crown, and that pressure, all roads lead back to you. So, guys, if you are really serious about business, I'm telling you now, it's not for the faint-hearted. It won't be a smooth, easy journey. I wouldn't still be here if I didn't hope that would be the case one day. But it is difficult, really difficult.
Are you still a lawyer?
Well, technically, I suppose, yeah, but there's rules around if you're out of practice for so long, because the laws change, you'd have to go back. So if you're asking me to represent you, no.
I was just wondering how you would juggle everything, like all of the things you need to do in your life and also the business stuff.
Well, all of that is behind me now, so I'm not involved in law at all. I'm strictly business. BRONX, 100%. It has all my focus. But I get agitated and I think, oh, what's next? What could be the next project? And Lord Sugar says, don't run before you can walk. Focus on this, get this locked down. And then we'll start looking at second sites and expanding and growing. But, yeah.
Time for just about one more question.
Make it a good one.
First of all, I want to thank you for your speech and also fair play for your career and especially for you bringing your mom here today. It's the first time in the workshop is happening and
Yeah.
it's a great example and also I think makes your mom very proud and satisfied.
You're going to make her cry in a second.
So my question actually is about, you said you started when you were 24. I'm Italian, I don't know anything about The Apprentice, I don't know this TV program or anything about it. But I don't know how many years ago this happened actually. How many years ago this program happened?
So I was on it in 2023, but it's been around for about 20 years. It's a big part of British culture.
Okay.
It's like a...
But I don't know anything about
It's okay.
TV, but I want to know how much of that girl, of 24 years old girl, is left today. What did you have to, maybe some part of your character that you had to reshape in order to have your career done going on? It makes sense. And what you had maybe to yeah, like how much of that girl is left, and what did you kept, and what did you have to let it go in order to go through your experience?
That is a great question. That is a really great question. You might make me cry now because I often look back and wish I had more of that girl still left in me. I look back on her sometimes in my moments and I'm thinking, I don't know how I'm going to do this, or I'm feeling sorry for myself, or I'm sad, or things aren't going my way. I look back and be like, what happened? You were so brave, you were so bold, you were so courageous, and you do adjust, and life does beat you down. It's true. You okay? It's hard. It's really hard. But that's not to say there's not parts of you now and where you're at now that isn't better than that person. I'm like an evolved version of her, and I owe her a lot. I have a lot to thank her for. It's okay. It's okay.
I've got up.
You okay? You okay? It's okay. Yeah, business is a journey, and one of the most beautiful things about business is it is directly related to yourself and your journey. Without her, I wouldn't be where I am today, and I hope that without this version of me now, I'll be thanking her in 5 years' time. It's a process, it's a journey, and none of it is easy. None of it is easy. No, it's okay.
Thank you so much, Marnie. Can we give her another massive round of applause? Thank you so much.